There are so many things that are wrong with the T app, but I'm not seeing enough people talk about them. So, this is a video about everything that's wrong with the T app. If you're new to the concept of the T app, this app is an app that went extremely viral in the past 2 weeks on platforms like X. And basically, T is an online safety tips app. So, based on what I read from the reviews and the website, is that it was meant for women sharing dating tips with other women to make the whole experience safer. The founder talks about how he had the painful experience watching his mom have bad online dating experiences from like being catfished and all that. And so he decided to create an app that could help women get smarter with online dating through women sharing their own experiences and their own tips for it. So when you look at the story, the founder's story is touching, but there's something I fundamentally believe. Even if you're close to a certain issue, it doesn't always mean that you're the right person to solve that particular issue. And I have so many reasons for this. So let's start with the first reason. The cause that this app was designed around is a feminist cause. When you look at the whole notion of keeping women safer, helping women speak to each other about abuse and give each other tips on how to navigate situations, that is a feminist cause. However, there's no part on the website or in the founder's LinkedIn that shows me that they have feminist values in what they're designing. And this is important because if you are working around a feminist cause, there are certain approaches that you have to take. For instance, an app that is supposed to be for online safety tips and to help women navigate tips around abuse and violence, then it means that you have to take what is called a survivor centered approach to designing the app. What a survivor centered approach means is that every decision you make has to center the survivor first. For instance, one of the biggest challenges the app has had so far is the data leak that happened. So, the software engineers who worked on T made a public database where they put in all the selfies and IDs that women had used to verify themselves when they made the app. So, part of the biggest challenges around having an app for women talking to other women is that you need to verify that the people who are actually contributing are women. And so what the app decided to do was have an ID verification system. However, if you're designing with a survivor centered approach, then you know that this already goes against what it means to center survivors first. You have an app where people are talking about abuse and manipulation, and in some cases, gender based violence. And intimate partner violence is one of the most dangerous forms of gender based violence. So if you're collecting ID material, you already know that there's a heightened risk involved when you do not secure this data correctly or you did not destroy it. And the T app did tell users that it destroyed the IDs that it had collected throughout the process, but they didn't. They put it in a publicly available unencrypted database. And unencrypted means that anybody can go in and look at the data. So you're dealing with intimate partner violence and you're not securing this data in an appropriate manner. What then happens if the women whose data was leaked, so 70,000 plus women have their IDs leaked on the internet? What happens if that same person that they were complaining about on the internet can find them and harm them as a result of being exposed on the app? So, first things first, they got it off wrong by having ID verification as the method. In their statement after the data leak, they do say that ID verification was stopped in 2023, but they should have deleted that data. They did not do that and have put a lot of women in harm's way. Second, one thing the T app completely failed at was not controlling the trend where women were doxing men. There's no world in which doxing is a great strategy for any form of activism or empowerment. And any organization that works with a survivor centered approach would have nuked that trend from the moment it started. First of all, it is wrong to dox people anyway. But because these women are talking about things like gender based violence and manipulation and emotional abuse, there's a heightened risk of these women being doxed further. So I don't know why no one at the app thought that actually this trend could backfire because misogynistic men will always go after women they see are being vocal. And it doesn't make sense to me why anybody at this app did not actively stop this trend, because there was no world in which it would not have backfired on the women who participated in this trend. Furthermore, this trend watered down their mission. If T's mission was to be a space where people share techniques and tactics to deal with dating manipulative men, then having women rate men for their looks or their sexual preferences or their sexual performance completely waters down the values that the app was supposed to espouse. And so it should have been nuked from the start. It was not a good idea to have it running. I think maybe perhaps they let it go on because it was a way for a lot of people to get to know about the app. And people are curious and nosy, and of course they downloaded it. But reducing safety of women to gossip is a problem, and they should have nuked it. Also, it is a dehumanizing trend. I think one of the things we should always think about when we're thinking about strategies to protect ourselves or enhance feminism is that what if it was reversed? Like, if men were rating women online, would it be fair? So, once again, because they are an app and they have a brand to protect and values to promote, they should have stopped that trend. There's a reason why NGOs that work in domestic violence for years and years do not use such technological approaches as a solution for a deep societal issue like GBV. And these NGOs don't do this not because they do not care or they do not value technology, but because so much due diligence is required when you have such a space. Is there anyone who is going to be sitting there and verifying the stories that people are making when accompanied with the real life pictures of people and real life ideal people? The T app had no such capacity, and they should not have allowed it to continue. And that's the honest truth about solving issues as tough as GBV. It's not a joke. Intimate partner violence, emotional abuse, all of it, it's not a joke. And so if you want to take on such a challenge, you have to be aware that there are processes that you should take for the safeguarding of everybody involved. T had a duty of care to its users, and maybe they treated this endeavor like running any app and forgot that fundamentally the safety of women is not just something that you can wish off with a technological solution. And this is what happens when people think technology can just solve deep societal issues. And I have to commend the T app for some of the features they put on the app. So some of the features I saw were that you could do a reverse image search of somebody to check if they were phishing you. You could check criminal databases. You could check sex offender lists. And these are all really great features to have in one place, and also to reduce the difficulty of running these checks by yourself. But we have to remember that there's a price for convenience, and the price here is your data and your privacy. So while I think these features are amazing, I think that the T app has lost the plot along the way, and they might need to dial a lot back if they want to continue with that same mission. Also, another aspect I just thought of now, intimate partner abuse does not just happen between men and women, it also happens between women and women. What then happens for queer women who may want to talk about their abuse experiences if the app is only for women? So, meaning a female abuser can still come online and see what's being said about them. What happens then? This is something that they may have forgotten about, that queer women also face abuse too, and they might also want to share their experiences. Now, the T app is not all to blame for everything that went on there. I think the users too have a lot of responsibility to uphold. And I think the thing I need to address the most is trust. One, how users trusted the app. Two, how users trust people in online spaces. First of all, if you want to try a new app that's out there, you first have to ask yourself, is this app really necessary? I feel very hypocritical saying this because I download any new app, but I think digital minimalism is really important. And one of the questions you have to ask yourself, especially even with the T app, is that is there any other app that I'm already using that's fulfilling this need? If you look at online safety tips, um, Reddit already has forums for women and where women can ask questions about how to date safely or how to spot abuse. And you can always see the validity of advice based on how many upvotes or how many downvotes or the kind of responses that people in the comments give. And it's worked for years as a forum for people to get advice. So, do you really need a new app? And a lot of the features that T was giving was something you can learn how to do yourself. It's tedious to do your own reverse image search, your own criminal background check on, largely available government databases, but it can be done. You can learn these skills on your own to reduce how much data you need to give online. It's tedious, but like I said, convenience has a price, and convenience here is your safety, especially if you are a victim of serious forms of abuse. It's definitely convenient to have all these features in one place, but the more features an app has, the more risks there are. If you notice, the T app data even had location data. So if somebody can combine your ID and your location, there's so much harm that can happen to you. The second thing is that it's time for users to actually build discernment in the kind of information we see in online spaces. I think we've gotten so used to trusting anything we see online and not actually doing the work to verify that an app like T would naturally fit into this space where we have already so much trust of anything anybody says online. And it's even made easier if, oh, I'm black and a black woman shares something, I immediately believe them. If I'm a woman and a woman shares something and I immediately believe them. But we have to remember that people's identities do not automatically make them good people. So just because it's women sharing, details online doesn't always mean it's verifiable information, or that it's accurate information, or that they're not lying. And in this case, a lot of things can be true. Whisper networks have been such a fundamental part of keeping women safe in real life. How I don't know what whisper networks are. Whisper networks are just that social networks where women gossip about abusive men or men who've harassed people. And, once you pick up on the gossip, you are much more aware of the kind of man you're dealing with. But we have to remember that whisper networks happen in real life societies. So, one, the person who's sharing this information with you, and based on how you know them, you can judge how much trust you can give in that information. But also, when you have people sharing such information with you in person, they have a lot to lose. When you go into digital spaces where people are sharing crucial information about men that they know are anonymous, then there's a bit of certainty around it. It's like you don't know who these people are. They don't have anything to lose. They're just coming online and doxing somebody and making accusations. And because you don't know them, you wouldn't know how much trust to give in this information. In a lot of cases, they could be warning you about real things that happen. But also, we live in an age where misinformation is so rife, and people can use allegations of GBV to go after people they do not like. With the Me Too era, the reason why there was so much credibility around it is because women actually came out. They did not hide their identities. They came out and stood bravely to give their testimonies. They had a lot to lose and also made people believe them more. But people in an anonymous online space do not have as much to lose. So, if you're going to be getting such news in online spaces, you have to take it with a grain of salt because you do not know who's sharing this information with you. You can't verify it. And also, on the other hand, this is why a company shouldn't allow such a trend. This is something that they truly can never verify. Yes, they can verify online government databases of criminal arrested for criminal offenses or sexual offenses, but they can't verify gossip. They can't verify rumors attached to people's real life IDs. It's a very harmful trend to happen, and it will backfire on the women who are genuinely trying to get safety information. Understand the intent to digitize whisper networks, but technology cannot solve everything. We live in a world where you're told that technology is the end all be all solution, but it's not. And we have to remember that consistently. Just a tool and that has so many mistakes. So when you enter the AI era, online trust is going to be even harder. And we have bypassing ID verification with deepfakes overlaid on their face and fake IDs generated from LLMs. Then you also have research that came out and said that AI bots are way more persuasive than human beings. And so when you're seeing information from anonymous people, how sure are you that it's an actual one woman or an actual human being sharing this information. It's really sad that we live in a world where women are living in debilitating fear of femicide and GBV. And the data does say that 1 in 3 women have or will experience GBV in their lifetime. However, technology is not the solution for everything. And if you want to pursue technology as a solution for such a thing, you have so much due diligence you have to do as a developer, and even you as a user on the user end, there's so much due diligence you have to do. You have to remember the risk involved with something as serious as gender based violence. You can't cut corners with something as important as this. If you're a developer who wants to develop such a solution for the point of making money, then just make another app. Don't touch something like this if money is your highest concern, if you're not ready to do the due diligence that's needed to build a survivor centered approach to responding to some of these challenges. For now, I think that the T app has a lot of work to do to build their trust again. And if I were a woman who had the account, I would genuinely just delete my account for the time being until they prove themselves. But yeah, if you've gotten here, please subscribe and follow for more. Thank you.